Okay, so this is going to be short and sweet. I just really wanted to talk to you today about, or for this section, la la la, da 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 da. Okay, starting in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so this section should be nice, short, and sweet. I really just want to talk to you about the reasons why design matters. So this first thing I'm going to pull up is an example of a student school newsletter that's going home to parents. And I think the first thing that shows up to me is that there's just a lot going on. There's a lot of different sections. There's a ton of different fonts and graphics. I just don't know what to focus on. So I think the first thing when we start thinking about design and thinking about the products that we're putting out for the students to consume in the classroom, but then also what's going home to parents, is to try and clean it up a little bit. Again, like I said before, there's a lot of graphics going on here. There is a ton of different fonts, a lot of different colors. So when you think about some of your own favorite websites, magazines, any kind of publication, what is it about them that draws you to them? It's clean, simplistic, gets to the point. The content is important, but it's also about how it's delivered. So here is an example slide that a teacher might use in the classroom. And I think I've talked enough about it now that you hopefully can see that there's too much going on in this slide, too much text at least, and the text is really small because there's so much going on. So be short, be concise, get that text a lot larger. The font itself is not a difficult thing to read. It's just the size and just the amount of stuff that's on there. So just be keeping in mind those things as you're creating. There's nothing, I don't think, inherently wrong with some of the color choices here or even the graphics. It's just there's too much going on one screen. And here's again kind of your typical school website. Not that there's anything wrong here. I'm not trying to pull out anything, but is this the type of site that pulls you in? What is it that we're putting out for people to consume that isn't necessarily stacking up against the stuff that we normally are consuming on a regular basis? So to get into that, this again comes back to that website that I shared with you in the last section. But there are some elements of design, and then there's also some other things for us to focus on. So the first thing, think about any of the lines that you have that you're creating on a slide deck where you're wanting to draw the eye. Any shapes that you have on there should be a defined area for a reason. In one of the last previous slides, I put a square around a call-out box. So that's an example of using shape to help guide you. Think about the directions in which those lines are going and how they're kind of giving you a sense of balance, if at all possible, with what you're doing. Also, again, I've talked about size over and over and over again, and the size of the font, especially in the classroom setting, needs to be really present and easy to see from the back of the room. And not to get into too much of the nitty-gritty about it, but you should be thinking about size as relevant to the other things that are on the screen. And that kind of goes the same with like space, just keeping sure that things are evenly spaced and aligned. Use those alignment tools that we've talked about before. And then color, obviously, especially in a classroom setting when you're using a slide deck to show prompts and exit tickets, it should be a color that's easy to read. If you've got a dark background, it should be a lighter font. If you've got a white or lighter background, then it should be a darker font, just so that juxtaposition between the two colors makes it easier for you to see. Okay, then we're talking about like the principles of design. And in this case, you're going to want to think about, I think the most important thing is the alignment piece, if at all possible, to provide repetition. So if you're going to have images, either one image or, up to like 3 images, and if you can get those in alignment to each other in some way that shows, contrast and space, I think all of those things are probably the most important. So the alignment just allows to create order, and it draws the eye to where you need it to be. And contrast, again, kind of thinking about the colors that you're using, light versus dark, so things pop off the screen. So again, that it's easy to see. Okay, so some different design tools that we've talked about so far, really thinking about font. I know sometimes we really gravitate towards some of those like handwritten fonts, but you honestly want to stick to things that are, again, easy to see on the screen. So use that filter tool that we talked about when you're looking at different fonts, and those display fonts are going to be the best choices for slide decks. Thinking about your color, we mentioned, thinking about your size, we've mentioned. I think using some high quality images is also going to be really great. One of my favorite places to get high quality images for free that are free to use is from Unsplash. If you just do a Google search for that, that's a great place to get high quality photos. And, just keep in mind that if you are popping in graphics that you're kind of attributing where they're coming from, and thinking about using something that makes sense, obviously. And I think I also showed you, yes, I did on one of the previous videos, I showed you how to adjust the color using that color pick eyedropper. So that comes in handy when you're using images and graphics to make sure that it kind of blends in with the rest of the screen. Some more ideas to think about. Again, we've talked about this, alignment and lines. Just make sure that they're all lining up together. Images and shapes, just high quality images. And that grouping tool, don't forget that grouping tool that we talked about in the Slides 101 video to get the most out of multiple images and keeping them in alignment and size. And I think coming up, we're going to be pushing you into the Slides Carnival section. We're going to look at additional tools that can up your game even more. So Slides Carnival is a free website where you can get a whole bunch of different templates, high quality templates for slides that will make your slide deck look a lot nicer. Canva is another tool that allows you to make newsletters, for example, posts to social media, as well as presentations if you want to. It's a little bit more kind of bulky to work with, which I explain in the next section. And Adobe Spark, we've been talking about it a lot in this district, so hopefully you've had a chance to explore those as well. And then don't forget about good old-fashioned Google Drawings and being able to create your own vector art and other things in Google Drawings. Pretty awesome. So don't forget that you have that available too to manipulate images. And we also talked about those Chrome extensions that are going to help in your design aesthetic, the Color Pick Eyedropper and Font Ninja, to try and find other interesting fonts, as well as to define clearly different colors that you might need for backgrounds or to match up with something. So again, just remember all of these little tips and tricks will help make your slides that much better.